can be a pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub on the side of the wheel. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. Or isn't my sign that you win or you fail? Be the best of whatever you are. We already have some noble examples. Black men and black women who demonstrated to us that human nature cannot be cataloged. They in their own lives have worked through long and desolate nights of oppression, and yet they've risen up and plunged against cloud-filled nights of affliction, new and blazing stars of inspiration. And so from an old slave cabin in Virginia's hills, Booker T. Washington rose up to be one of America's great leaders. He lit a torch in Alabama, and darkness fled in that setting. Yes, you should know this because it's in your own city. From a poverty-stricken area, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Marin rose up to be the world's greatest contralto, so that across the media could say that a voice like this comes only once in a century, and Sibelius of Finland could say, my roof is too low for such a voice, and the red hills of Gordon County, Georgia, and the arms of a mother who could neither read nor write, Ng-Thow-Hing rose up to be one of the world's great singers and carried his melodious voice into the palaces and mansions of kings and queens. From crippling circumstances, there came a George Washington to carve for himself an imperishable niche in the annals of science. There was the star of the diplomatic sky, and then came Ralph Bunce, the grandson of a slave preacher. He reached up and grabbed it and allowed it to shine his light with all of its scintillating beauty. There was a star in the Atlantic sky. And then came Jackie Robinson in his day, and Willie Mays in his day with that powerful bats and that calm spirits. Then came Jesse Owens with his feet and dashing feet. Then came Joe Louis and the Army with uneducated fists. All of them came to tell us that we can be somebody, and to justify the conviction of the court, pleasing looks and black complexion cannot forfeit nature's claim. Skin may differ, but affection dwells in black and white the same. The found was so horrible as to reach the pole. And the grass of the ocean has span. I must be measured by my soul. The mind is the standard of the man. Finally, the last blueprint must be a commitment to the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. Don't allow anybody to pull you so low as to make you hate them. Don't allow anybody to cause you to lose your self-respect to the point that you do not struggle for justice. However young you are, you have a responsibility to seek to make your nation a better nation in which to live. You have a responsibility to seek to make life better for everybody. So you must be involved in the struggle for freedom and justice. Not in the struggle for freedom and and certain things that we all can do, and that we all must do. And we must not give ourselves to those things which will not solve our problems. You've heard the word nonviolent, and you've heard the word violent. I believe in nonviolence. We struggle with this method with young people and adults alike all over the South, and we have won some significant victories, and we've got to struggle with it all over the North because the problems are as serious in the North as they are in the South. But I believe as we struggle with these problems, we've got to struggle with them with a method that can be melted, but at the same time does not destroy life economy. And so our slogan must not be burn, baby, burn. It must be build, baby, build. Yes, our slogan must be learn, baby, learn, so that we can earn, baby, earn. And with a powerful commitment, I believe that we can transform not yesterday's of injustice into bright tomorrows of justice and humanity. Let us keep going toward the goal of selfhood, toward the realization of the dream of brotherhood, and toward the realization of the dream of understanding goodwill. Let nobody stop us. I close by quoting once more the man that the young lady quoted. That magnificent black boy who is now passed on, lashed to use. One day he wrote a poem entitled Mother's Son. And the mother didn't always have her grammar right, but she uttered words of great symbolic profundity. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no pistol stab, accident. Roads torn up places, with no carpet on the floor, bad. All the time, I've been climbing on and reaching landings and climbing corners, and sometimes going into dark, but I ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you stop now. Don't you set out on the steps, cause you find this kind of hard. But I'm still going, boy. I still climb. And life for me ain't been no crystal stab. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal stab. But we must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.
Good evening. My name is Gamal Chasten, Artistic Director and co-founder of the Breath Project. We opened our event this evening with the music of Rufus Jones and the drumming of Stuart Gunter. And you were just watching Glow Eternal, submitted by Jessica Gabrielle Thomas of Detroit, Michigan, home of the Breath Project's theater partner, Detroit Public Theater. I'd like to first start by acknowledging that we are on indigenous land of the Alumni and Cornerstone tribes. And before I welcome you to this event, I want to take this time to apologize for any technical difficulties you may have experienced. This has been a rich weekend, but it has not been without technical challenges, so I apologize for any of that you may have experienced. But if you're here in this room now, I want you to enjoy the rest of this evening. And with that said, I welcome you to the Breath Project's inaugural virtual theater festival. The Breath Project was born after the tragic murder, the monstrous murder of George Floyd, who died at the hands of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who held his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 8 minutes and 46 seconds is a long time to be uncomfortable. As an artist, myself and Marika Gabori, who is the managing director and co-founder of the Breath Project, were responding to a question we were asking ourselves: what can we do? And due to family health issues, I couldn't be out marching like I was in the 90s. So the Breath Project is and was our what. Marika suggested that, why don't you write an 8 minute and 46 second monologue? And I resisted a little bit at first, but once I decided to write the piece, we saw the value in it, and we decided to record it at Palo Alto Children's Theater, where I am today. Marika also had a follow-up idea: wouldn't it be a great to have a place for artists to put their work? There must be other artists around the country responding in a similar way, so wouldn't it be great for them to have a place to have put their work? And thus was born the archive. Now, after that, we settled on the idea that the Breath Project would be for and about BIPOC theater artists. The festival would be promoting their work. And before sheltering, I had just come back from debuting a show with Cincinnati Playhouse. And so the first call I made, once we decided to do this virtual festival, was to Cincinnati Playhouse. And I talked with Danya Robinson, who is their education director, and Blake Robeson, who is the artistic director. And after their offering of many resources to help us with this project, I walked away from that conversation understanding the impact that this initiative could have. So we decided from there to bring on other theater partners. And initially we were thinking 2 to 3 partners per region. And I'm happy to say we well exceeded that. We have 24 theater partners around the country, from New York to Hawaii. And the fact that they decided to come on board in this moment in time was huge, because every theater was depleted, furloughing 70 to 80% of their staff. So everyone's bandwidth was really small. And so if they said yes, that meant a lot to us. And we had a few asks for those theaters. First, we wanted them to just provide resources to the artists who may need it for filming, or if they needed space or access to a video camera, things like that, or just support. And then we asked that they bring on BIPOC curators to curate the selections. And then we asked them to also commit to some type of live production when the virus would allow for us to start gathering live again. And we then worked on solidifying our mission statement. And along with partners, our mission is to utilize art, action, and advocacy, and we seek to build a more equitable theater community in this country while dismantling systemic racism that exists in American theater. Now, these artists that you're about to see their videos tonight, their voices are super powerful and important, and they need a platform to be heard. Their work is passionate, fearless, honest, joyful, and sometimes painful. The idea of what live theater is in this moment has been challenged. So while you're sitting here tonight watching these videos, I want you to allow yourself to be challenged. And at any moment, if you feel uncomfortable and you feel like you want to get up and the content is a little too much and you want to walk away from your screen, I want you to try to sit in it. Try to sit through that uncomfortability. Because again, the things you're about to hear need to be heard. And with that, I welcome you to the Breath Project's Living Time Capsule.
Hello, I'm Judge Lucky, the Managing Artistic Director here at the Palo Alto Children's Theater, a co-presenter of the Breath Project Festival. The piece you're about to watch was created as part of an ongoing collaboration between the Children's Theater and Stanford University's Compression Lab, or Forum, investigating the intersection of immersive theater and advanced technology in workshops led by project mentors Devin Barr and Marika Gabori. This summer, the Stanford Compression Forum and the Children's Theater commissioned a group of summer interns led by high school senior Anthony Sky Ng-Thow-Hing to create this work for the Breath Project Festival. This is Transcending Isolation, Hope.
One a.m. Pacific Time.
Lately, in the hour or so before I go to sleep, I can't help but think about the future. When COVID is over, I imagine what it's going to be like going to college in person for the first time instead of doing it at home.
Three a.m. Pacific Time.
I'm sitting at my computer right now, working, and I can't stop thinking about how I can't wait to play soccer with my friends and go traveling. I'm really hoping that I can go to college in person soon.
Five a.m. Pacific Time. I'm taking a walk right now just to clear my head, and I'm realizing that I felt pretty depressed during quarantine, especially at the start, because I was so overwhelmed by the amount of extra time that I had, and I felt like I had to be productive, but struggled to. Seven a.m. Pacific Time.
Just watching Selling Sunset on Netflix right now, and I feel the overwhelming pressure to improve myself, if that makes sense. Like, those real estate agents on the show are so perfect, and quarantine has everyone working out, and there's so much stress on self-improvement. But you know what? Fuck society.
Nine a.m. Pacific Time.
I've been trying to play some football in the evenings, or as you guys call it, soccer. So yeah, my family and soccer have been getting me through quarantine.
Eleven a.m. Pacific Time.
So far, I haven't done much. However, currently, I'm getting ready to sit down and work on some stuff on my computer. I've lost my morning training routine for fitness, so I aim to make up for that by doing some editing stuff. I also aim to improve my basketball skills. Loneliness, though, has also had an intense effect on my mental health in quarantine.
One p.m. Pacific Time.
There have been high highs and really low lows in my mental health. In fact, probably the lowest I've ever been, because of the lack of seeing friends, a breakup I went through, and the tension with family. But the highs are caused by making, running, and drawing.
Three p.m. Pacific Time.
I've been feeling pretty sad, to be honest, but I've been getting through quarantine. Football and my dog have helped.
Five p.m. Pacific Time. I've been feeling sadness, for the most part, albeit mild. I really do miss my friends a lot. Thinking about them is bittersweet because I reminisce about when we were all together. Now it's been months upon months since I've seen them in person. "7 p.m. Pacific Time.
Quarantine is really testing me, and I haven't seen my brother since quarantine started. I hardly ever get to speak to him now. And my parents are both divorced, so I only ever saw one at a time occasionally to begin with. But, now it's even more spaced out.
"9 p.m. Pacific Time.
Hey Emma! Yes, I have gotten the letter and the postcard. In light of recent events, I have started questioning a lot of the things my dad and brother say, and so our relationship have been somewhat strained. I definitely tell them less now because their views are real trash sometimes. Hope you're doing good, Jasmine."
11 p.m. Pacific Time.
My mom had to take leave from being a flight attendant because she's immunocompromised, so neither of my parents can work during this time. It's been pretty rough. I'm looking for a job to support my family. Open to anything.
"1 a.m. Pacific Time.
But I'm hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful for college, and I'm hopeful to see people again.
I'm hopeful to live in a safer...
I'm hopeful for a more open life.
I'm not sure what to say. I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what to think. I'm not sure what to feel. But you know what? I know what I want to do. I want to believe. I want to believe that we'll work it out. I want to believe that we'll figure this out. I want to believe that we'll fix it. I want to believe that I'm worth the effort. I want to believe that all of these old wounds will heal. I want to believe that we'll learn to appreciate each other again. I want to believe that this whole thing will be okay. But I'm not sure. I don't want to pretend that all of this is okay, because it's not. It's been really lonely. There's always hope, and sometimes hope is all you need. So, I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy. I'm not going to pretend that I'm okay. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not angry. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not heartbroken. But I'm going to say that I'm not giving up. And in a way, I'm actually very proud of that. Everything will be okay. Everything will be better than okay.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Bruce Lemon Jr., a Breath Project curator on behalf of Cornerstone Theater Company in Los Angeles, California, where I'm the Associate Artistic Director. The piece you're about to watch is The Ballad of Jacob Blake, submitted by Gabrielle Jackson of Long Beach, California.
When I first saw the video of Jacob Blake talking from his hospital bed, I cried. Then I watched it again. Then I cried again and watched it again and watched and cried until finally it registered what I was seeing. Then I reached up high and I grabbed out of thin air the only proper way I know to acknowledge works of true magic. The thing I do when my Jaja points out that I am made of the fabric of the center of the universe. I used a quote from Harry Potter. Jacob Blake, the boy who lived, and no sooner than I punched my fists in the air in triumph did the words exit my mouth and knock me in the face. The context. Jacob Blake, the boy who lived. Picture it. 1960 or 2020, pick a year, they're pretty much the same thing. Anyway, a white man stands a great distance from a black man, commanding him to do his will. Come here, boy, he says. I got something I want you to do. And the black man, valuing himself not only as a man, but a human being, says no, turns around and walks away. And the white man quietly collects his pride, his friends, and his hood, and he lights a bonfire on that man's front lawn. Or he shoots that man from the back of a pickup truck while his buddy captures the action. Or he shoots that man 7 times in front of his children, and he teaches that boy his place and squelches out any urges of resistance his kids or his children's children may have had, because remember, this trauma is generational. And furthermore, I think to myself, this is not magic. This is anything but magic. Magic would have been Jacob getting into the car, making it home in time to help his kids blow out their birthday candles. Magic was that black man whose joy mattered enough to make it across my timeline because he discovered what the word frolic meant. He discovered what it meant to be able to move through the world and be truly free. But instead, magic had been reduced to Jacob Blake, from his hospital bed, unshackled and undead, speaking like someone who had the weight of the world thrust upon them. A man who couldn't do his necromancy in peace and privacy because his wounds had healed into a hashtag at a time where people were still looking for a black king to cross their chests to in reverence. And in my haste and my excitement, I skipped all the steps and made this man into a movement. My first thought? He can testify in court. That's how far removed I had become from this man's humanity. That's what happens to a dream deferred. It explodes forward onto everything in its path. I want justice for Sandra and Trayvon and George and Botham and Ahmad and Brianna and every other body who laid inside a chalk outline drying like a raisin in the sun. A chalk outline that at any moment could take my shape. Any body that caught a bullet that at any moment could take my life. And in this man, I saw a ceasefire. I saw Washington crossing the Delaware in a sneak attack, his strong leg on the bow of my tiny ship, ready to lead me and the other huddled masses who have been marching in the streets, singing the rallying cries of people whose nation perpetually had its knee in their necks. They didn't expect him to survive. Surprise. But then I remembered that Washington's smile was made of all the things that he had ripped away from my ancestors. That the country he built had stolen this man's ability to put his leg up on the bow of my ship in its bloodthirsty haste to add another ancestral body to our council. And then I noticed his body was so much smaller than it looked in the screen caps of the videos that had been circulating online, raging forward, threatening to burn down Kenosha and consuming my social feeds and me right along with them. It really burns me up how easy it is to access black pain. I realized that this man was not a star or a titan. My second thought? This man needs me to row him across the river to the promised land. So I packed myself in the hull of that ship and I rowed, slave to the narrative that this load was squarely on my back, and the responsibility to take this man and the weight of what he had become across the river fell solely to me. I gotta cross that river Jordan. I gotta cross it for myself. So nobody here can cross that for me. I gotta cross it for myself. I cannot take him across the river. And suddenly, I am stuck between the earth and the underworld. And I call out to a goddess of another pantheon, my Orisha, sweet Oshun, the one who flows through me like river waters, who through all of us grows movements and births lovers like me who want nothing more than to heal this man at the drop of a video. And I take down my plants, and I turn on the faucet of my kitchen sink, and I fill my cup with intention, and I pour out to her, and I beg her to make sense of what I can do for this man who does not belong to me. And she whispers in my ears what his sister had yelled into microphone as I am my brother's keeper. And it rings in my ears as I voyage to India on the lilt of the sweet language left over in Miss Ari's voice. Continue to breathe, continue to breathe in times like these. That's what your heart is for. And suddenly, for the first time, I hear my heart beating. I feel my blood moving through my veins. It is the blood of my ancestors. But it comes to rest in my heart. And my heart is open. I want to move how he asks me to move. Because he can ask me to move. And he can move me and the world with words from his hospital bed. Because he is Jacob Blake, the man who lived. And I'm waiting on him to tell me his story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Barfield, and I am the literary manager at Two River Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, and proud partner theater to the Breath Project. The piece that you are about to watch is I Just Don't Know, submitted by David Zayas and Breath Project Artistic Director Jamal Chasten.
I've been doing this job a long time. Came up through the ranks, made lieutenant in charge of my own task force, human trafficking. I like to believe we do good work. We collaborate with community-based organizations and NGOs identifying and apprehending traffickers as well as so-called boyfriends on reservations who've turned pimp to pay off drug debts. We even have a native tribal social worker on staff to help victims with counseling. It's always the most vulnerable who are taken advantage of, right? Well, folks on the res are broke. They get by how they get by. Let's face it, this was their land. They got a raw deal. And if I'm being honest, anyone who isn't Caucasian has had it rough in Minneapolis. I'm of Puerto Rican descent, but I grew up in the Bronx. Well, in the 1980s, the Bronx was burning. My dad was a construction supervisor, and Minneapolis had billions to spend on redevelopment. His job offered him an opportunity to relocate, and he took it. Minneapolis couldn't have been more different from New York. In New York, I had Dominican friends, Black friends, Italian friends. And when we moved here, not so much. My dad made good money out there. We didn't live in the hood. I was always the minority of the minorities. No matter your background, it comes with pride. So I didn't take it well when anyone I would meet thought I was Native American, because I wasn't, because I'm not. And it's not okay to lump people into a group because you are uneducated. I hated that. So I'd push back, fights in school, on the playground, but I was never a criminal. As a person of color, I've witnessed the ugliness of Minneapolis that comes with racism. I read that Minneapolis outlawed slavery, and the African-American community here was thriving until I-94 split off the community from downtown. And you can find that to be true anywhere in America. Now, if you want to look for the demarcation line between the haves and the have-nots in America, locate the freeway. They did the same thing to us in the South Bronx with the Cross Bronx Expressway. Slavery outlawed. It's fair to say when it's written in black and white hasn't resembled the reality of black and white in Minneapolis. I mean, it's pretty sad to think that in 1967, African Americans were fighting against discrimination and police brutality then. 50 years, we're still here. Like I said, I'm Puerto Rican from the Bronx, but I remember 2 separate occasions when I had bad run-ins with the Minneapolis PD. First time I was 14, broad daylight. They slammed me against the hood of the patrol car, cuffed me, threw me in the back, and they told me that they were picking me as a suspect in a gas station robbery. Thank goodness I went to school with the gas station attendant and he cleared me. Second time I was 18, had my first car. It was an Oldsmobile, Cutlass Supreme. I was taking stuff out of my trunk and an officer approaches me and puts a gun to my temple and he says, "Run." He thought I was robbing my own car. Black or brown, they always thought we were up to no good. That's a fair question. Why I became an officer of the law. I honestly thought it was the best way I could be an advocate for my family and community, the best way to protect them if they had a friend in the police department. I actually got my father out of a jam once. He was accused of being drunk and disorderly and they arrested him. Basically, he was leaving a bar after work and he wasn't walking very straight. My dad and me are very different. He's much more conservative. I love him, but we don't agree on much. He thinks people should fend for themselves. He believes in the bootstrap theory. So, all things considered, when I turned 21, I thought going to the police academy was the quickest way of getting out of the house. I had a horrible time in high school with the whole American Indian thing. So I had no interest in going to college. So even after those traumatic experiences, it made perfect sense for me to join the academy. I was going to change things, right? After about a year on the force, I was working in the same precinct with the officer who put that gun to my temple. I made him remember. And I don't know if he meant it, but he apologized. So this has been my fight, trying to change things from the inside out. And like I said, I believe I do good work. The cases we come across in the task force would break your heart. Young Native girls going missing, living through sexual terrorism, being abused, raped, mutilated. And the worst is the psychological damage that just doesn't go away. Being a person of color in America is hard work. When I first joined the force, I did neighborhood patrol like most cops, and we had a handful of officers who treated African Americans in such a way that made me uncomfortable, to say the least. I did speak out about things I saw and heard. We just didn't have the leadership that we have now, so nothing really got done. So when I got a chance to run the task force, I took it. I was getting burnt out from street patrol. 2015, Jamal Clark was involved in a police shooting, and Black Lives Matter held protests outside our precinct. But what's happening now must be like 1967 times 10. Black protesters joined by white and brown protesters. Every officer in the city, including myself, dispatched. The volume of voices in the streets, the smoke, the fire, the violence, and the tension in the air took your breath away. It was the tension in the air, not the smoke, that made you gag. Hours after Floyd died, the police were holding the line, full riot gear, and so many people, a sea of people marching towards us. And it's so loud. And we've got to hold the line. Protect property, that's our job. Property over life. The protesters reach the line and they get right in your face. And it's not about fear, I'm not afraid. If they try and meet us with force, we have rubber bullets, tear gas, tanks. But all I want to do is advocate for them and protect them. Brown and black, but I'm wearing blue. At this point, it's not about fear, it's about shame. For the first time in my career, I feel shame. I think about being slammed into the hood of that car. I think about the gun to my temple, and I think about being lumped in a group for the first time. I'm ashamed of the blue. They're right up to the line, hurling phrases like sellout and spit at me. Traitor and spit at me. Racist pig and spit at me. Me. If they knew me, they wouldn't say that. And in that moment, all the other officers disappear and I'm standing there alone. I guess this isn't really new, living outside of the brown and the blue. Saliva dripping down my face shield, me clenching my baton and questioning what side of the line I belong on. I just don't know anymore.
Bruce Lemon here again, representing Cornerstone Theater Company. The piece you are about to watch is Black Quarantine Date, submitted by Candice of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of Breath Project theater partner, Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park.
So, I met a guy, tall, cute, chocolate, nice body, nice swagger about himself. He's 40, I know, right? Hella grown, 2 kids, but they're both old enough to where I ain't gotta babysit. I met him online like a year ago, but with my crazy schedule, we only hung out a couple of times and I didn't really give the situation a fair chance. So he starts hitting me up during the quarantine like, oh, you forgot about me. And I'm like, nah, chill out, you good. So we start texting a little bit, back and forth, just jokes and whatnot. And he's one of those haha after everything texters. And eventually he's like, you should come over and hang out. And I'm like, have you been thoroughly sanitizing your spot? I'm not trying to catch that Rona. And he's like, of course, my house is clean. I've been faithfully quarantining myself. We good over here. Okay. What exactly are we gonna do? Should I bring a gang? That's cool. Haha. So I decided to go over to his house and I take a lift because why lie? I'm balling out of control on that unemployment COVID plan. That shit feels like reparations, okay? I'm cute, I'm in my little form-fitting jeans and a top that I bought that I had just been waiting for an excuse to wear. I throw on a little lipstick, a little mascara, and my twist out is popping because I had been wearing my head wrap for like 3 days straight. I don't bring a game, partially because niggas don't really play games unless it's like spades or taboo, and it was just gonna be the two of us, so that wasn't gonna work, and partially because I forgot. My Lyft driver is a white male not wearing a mask. He says the masks are stupid and that he voted for Trump. Needless to say, I was fearing for my life in this car ride. But he let me live and I made it to the house safely. My date comes to the door and I'm late, so he makes a joke like, "These are booty call hours, haha." And I'm like, okay, it's 9:45, chill out. So he makes our drinks. I start looking around the house. It's definitely clean, small, cozy, lots of decorative pillows. And we sit and we drink and we talk. We talk about everything that night. We are vibing. It is a vibe. We talk about his kids. His daughter is a ballerina and his son was in a play. I talk about working with black kids in the theater, and he talks about being a black man working in the corporate world, and we argue about The Princess and the Frog. I said I hated that movie, and he's like, "Get Out." And I'm like, "Nah, nigga, you get out. That movie is a pathetic attempt to make a black girl a princess when she'd been a frog the whole time, because Disney didn't have the range to let a black girl want to be an astronaut or just sleep all day until her black prince comes to wake her up with a kiss. Nah, the black princess gotta want to be a cook and work her ass off until she becomes a princess. What kind of princess is that?" And he's like, "Ha ha, facts. But it's real though. The black princess wants to own her own business one day." And I'm like, "I feel you." All cute, like, "You wrong, but I'm turned on by this passionate banter." We talk about podcasts. We argue about season 2 of The Wire. We rave over To Pimp a Butterfly. And he clowns me for talking to the Lyft driver. "I'll say you one of those." What? You be making friends with the driver and shit? Around 2:30 in the morning, I start getting ready to leave and he offers me a ride home. The music in his car is incredible. A quality playlist with a combination of sexy new neo soul and classic R&B. We pull up to my house and we kiss, and it's the perfect quarantine kiss. Not too juicy, but just juicy enough to keep him out of friend zone. Not scandalous, respectful, but a little bit freaky. Just when I'm about to step out of the car, he grabs my hand, looks me deep into my eyes, and I can't look away. He's beautiful, sincere, dark, intelligent. I can't look away because I trust him already. And he asks me, "Will you marry me?" And I'm freaking out inside, even though I know that he's joking, because now he has that cute grin on his face, but nobody's ever proposed to me before. And after such a perfect night, I'm feeling a little bit like a black princess in this moment. But of course, I was like, "Nigga, I don't know you." And he licks his lips and says, "That's cool. I'll just have to ask another time. Tonight, I'll just settle for watching you walk away." I know what he meant. He just wanted to look at my ass one more time, but when I got back in the house, I couldn't help but feel smitten with him. Maybe the quarantine was finally getting to me. Maybe I was just lonely, or maybe it had just been a long time since I spent some time with a man who really knew how to communicate. He was flirty, but he never crossed any lines. He just wanted to talk. Maybe he was just as desperate for human connection as I was. I wanted to see him again. The next morning, I checked my phone for one of those "Good morning, beautiful" texts from him, but there was nothing. And I thought it was a little weird that he didn't even text me last night to let me know that he made it home okay. I mean, I didn't ask him to do that, but I just thought that he would because it was late and he lives about 8.5 minutes away from me. A lot of terrible shit can happen to a lot of niggas in 8.5 minutes. So then I thought, well, he probably passed out last night. Maybe he's not awake yet. Or maybe he just didn't want to blow me up, especially since he semi-seriously proposed to me last night. So I start scrolling through my social media just to distract myself. And there's a new trending hashtag. Hashtag justice for. And my heart begins to race and I start to feel numb because the name in the hashtag is the same name as my dates from last night. I thought it was a coincidence, but I look into the story anyway. At approximately 2:45 a.m., a black man was shot and killed while sitting at a red light by an officer who claims to have mistaken the man for the suspect of a high-speed chase. The black man had 2 children. One ring, 2 rings, 3 rings, 4 rings. Good morning, beautiful. You miss me already? Ha ha.
Hi, I'm Piper N. Davis with Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, where I am the sales and events manager. The piece you are about to watch is The Ballad of the Dying Body, or The Breath to Say, submitted by Derek J. Snow of Cincinnati, Ohio.
All I had left was the breath to say, and you managed to even take that away. Hello, hypoxia, my old friend. Oh, that's when the lack of oxygen begins to permanently damage the body. It always begins like this. At first, it feels like confusion. Your body becomes aware that it's suddenly not able to do what it normally does. And it blames you because it doesn't yet understand that it's not your fault that it is being denied the means to sustain life. There is an obstruction on your throat. Not in, on. Sure, this blockage said that it feared for its life. But what it really meant was that it has always feared for your life. What you could be, what you could accomplish, how powerful you could become if you were allowed to breathe. So right then and there, the choice was made for you that you wouldn't breathe anymore. And that is why this feeling is so confusing, counterintuitive. Since birth, you have breathed in the free air, and now in a matter of mere seconds, someone has taken that right from you. You gasp for anger, rage, but it's hard to focus your energy there when you need to breathe first to even channel the fury. Instinct makes you move to attempt to inhale. So how in the hell are you being told to stop resisting when everything you are and will ever hope to be depends on you to fight in that moment, to literally resist, survive the blockage? The pressure, oppressor on your throat knows nothing about you, except that you gotta go. Your dreams mean nothing. Your previous breath was a gift that you should have been more grateful for while you still had it with your uppity ass. The stars that you wished on at night for a better life are not the same stars you see as your vision begins to blur. Not even close. The heart has now caught on to what is happening, and your djembe drum plays at a quickened, panicked pace. The ancestors that reside in your bloodstream respond to the attack as they would in life when their freedom was threatened with war. But the body can't rebel now because every breath you attempt to let out is never coming back in. So the body experiences delirium. You're creative. I'll give you credit. At all the ways you kept us dead, it is a 4 centuries long endeavor to keep a collective me on an entire people's throats. Evil, but clever. However, I wouldn't say I'm impressed, but currently your knee is pressed. And before I lose consciousness, I call out to Mama, Oshun, Shango, anybody's guess. If I am truly blessed, deliver me from this mess. I can't. Quiet, nigga. Always a trick up your sleeve. If you're able to talk, then you're able to breathe. I can't believe I'm dying like this. This must be the part where there's dizziness. Before it goes dark, I try to muster a thought. After all I've endured, after how hard I fought, all for naught. Because at the end of my life, my last sunset on this day, I wasn't even given the dignity of my last breath to say... Help us! What would you say if you knew? If someone could tell you that you would be dead in less than 9 minutes, and that you only had 2, maybe 3 breaths to say whatever you needed to before the end, how would you spend that precious currency? What would you use them on? Would you say goodbye to your family? Leave a message to your friends? Tell the world how you died? Would you think of all the people you never said I love you to? You take my breath away. Has never been such a horrific thing to imagine, because it used to harken to something more innocent. Oh. Now it's a death sentence. After unconsciousness, the body dies. Without oxygen to the brainstem and the cerebellum, the victim will now need life support to remain technically, medically alive. And where does that spirit go? We'll never know. So many of these breaths have been lost to time, unavenged. We can't sleep in our homes. We can't walk to the store. We can't clock out from our jobs. We can't drive home with a missing license plate. We can't swim in a public pool. We can't buy a toy for our children without risking our last breath. So we die. And we die. And we die. And we die. And the body surrenders whatever ghost of a breath it had left to expire, asking, why am I being prematurely retired? But damn, I am tired. I am tired. We are tired. Life is not about the breaths you take, but the moments that take your breath away. So you say. Let go, my brother. Let go, my sister. We have you now. All I had left was the breath to say, and you managed to even take that away.
Hello again. The piece you're about to watch next is Cycle by the Char'Actors of New York City, home of the Breath Project's theater partner, Cherry Lane Theater.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I've had nightmares, horrific nightmares about mothers with bloodshot eyes, wailing and crying. The boys in blue, they mistook a submarine sandwich for a submachine gun. People talking, and they sighing with relief. It wasn't my black boy that got shot down in cold blood. That one is your brother. It's my brother. And when it's your son, it's my son. There is no separation. We all are one.
Dear beautiful baby of mine, I can't describe the joy that I had with the thought of your arrival. I wonder what you would look like, who you would act like, but not once did I ever think of this. One simple push from an overreactive cop cost us the most precious gift of our lives. We held out hope that somehow you would breathe again, and when you didn't, I thought I would never be able to. Your daddy still cries some nights too. Not for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, or a second at all.
I didn't sign up for this. My desire was to protect and uphold the law. That's far from the case throughout this force. You see, I'm fighting a losing battle that I cannot win. You see, I try to say what's right, and they call me a sellout. I'm morally right. See, it's not black and blue, it's human nature. Now, anybody who can't see that, well, they're just fools. You see, this is why I simply decided to make a career change. A career change where I can strategically fight the fight against police brutality. So I went back to school, got my law degree. Same fight, different tactic.
He followed all the protocol. He was calm and still. And he even had his proper license. He wasn't doing anything. He had everything. I saw that taser on that cop's hip, but not once did he reach for it. When I saw that gun, I got scared. My love, he never saw it coming, but my daughter and I will never forget it. So what do I tell her?
The system is shit. It was created purposefully to be a new form of slavery after slavery was supposedly abolished. They created a system filled with skewed laws and intentionally biased processes in order to rip thousands of our Black men from their families, doing unjust amounts of time for small crimes, for crimes they didn't even commit but were accused of doing anyway, to extreme sentences of any other race, just to make sense a day. Now don't get it twisted. Prison is business. And I work damn hard to make sure that each person I represent doesn't get captured into this system of new slaves.
It's funny how so many women pass through this life and slip through the cracks. How there are those who live long, happy, healthy lives, while others die suddenly, violently, undeservedly. Do you know our names? You'll say Sandra Bland's name, and rightfully so. You'll scream justice for Breonna Taylor, and so do we. But what about the rest of us? Will you ever say our names? Can you still hear us and feel our presence? Do you even know who we are? Or have you just lost count?
Cop pulled me over, my license good, my insurance good, so I think I'm straight. He come up to the window, all my credentials are right there. He said, "What you doing out late, boy?" What? I didn't even know that existed. I said, "Officer, I'm just going for a drive, but my credentials are right here." Look in his eyes after that had me shook. He said, "Step out the car, boy." I had a feeling I was gonna die that day. And I ended up being right.
Now remember what I told you. If any cop approaches you, don't run or act like a fool. Don't give them any reason to arrest you or to assault you. Talk clearly and calmly, but don't yell at them or come off as aggressive, even if you're right. I know it's a lot and you're 10, but I need you to make it back home. So if the cop even looks like he's a bad cop, you ask anybody around you to start recording, and do not reach into your pocket for anything. Do you understand?
Doctors are called to the emergency room near or at the end of life. That's not me. I get the distinct privilege and honor of presenting life to this world. Beautiful, precious babies. Black, brown, and in a myriad of equally spectacular colors. I get the chance to deliver change, hope, love, long life, and a brilliant future. And the most rewarding part about it is, I get the opportunity to see them take their very first breath.
When I was 7, I was walking to the store with my dad, and some cops approached us. They told my father they wanted to take him with them. And he said, "What for?" They said because he fit the description of, someone they had been looking for. They slammed him to the ground. And, I remember crying, just not understanding why they were so angry, because my father didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. And my mom made sure that I didn't see him for the next 3 months because of how bad they beat him. And I didn't know what to call it then, but I knew something was wrong.
I pray that you have a long and healthy life. I declare that no man or weapon formed against you shall prosper, and let your light be not removed by the evils of this world, but may the light within your soul shine ever brighter and expel all the demons of racism and injustice and hatred. Place no marks on his back, no marks on his head, no marks on his neck. Cover him, Lord, from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet with your holy protection all the days of his life. I only ask that his days be many, and may they be good. In Jesus' name.
I come and collect the body. That's my job, and I do it with the utmost care and concern. I arrive on the scene and it's almost like they have no remorse. All these officers standing around and no one's filing a report on them. And I can always tell who is who. There's the one who wants to speak up but doesn't. There's the officer who secretly likes it, but he wants to remain professional. And then, of course, the killer. He has this sense of pride and accomplishment that makes me sick. And yet, I still feel honored that I'm the one that gets to tend to the bodies of these young black men. I do the forensic investigation. The results are always the same. It's a gunshot wound, chokehold, knee to the neck. But the real cause of death is hatred.
Hello, this is Donnie Betts, a Brunt Project coordinator and curator on behalf of Curious Theater Company in Denver, Colorado, where I'm a guest director. The piece you're about to watch is Waiting for Death, submitted by Jane Brunt of Denver, Colorado, home of Brunt Project theater partner, Curious Theater Company.
From the moment my mother gave birth, I was set up to die. On a one-track highway to the Reaper outside, I see him standing there with his scythe and a sign. It reads, "Niggers get a free ride." Now I don't shake. I don't even look away. I stand grounded, ready to meet my fate. 'Cause yes, I'm that nigger. Big broad shoulders, skin so dark that people think I'm a shadow lurking in the alleyway. Scared if I get a little too close, I'll crush you in seconds. Big, strong hands to not only steal the chump change in your pockets, but to also take your white women with a glance. Nobody wants a drop of cocoa in their glass of precious milk. People look at me like I'm King Kong scaling the city in a rage, hollering at the top of Empire State Buildings. Needing to be put down by bullets, guns on guns on guns, always steady and relaxed, because killing black boys in this country is easy. As our blood floods the streets and they dance in it, they laugh, they sing, searching for another black boy to release their hate onto, shouting, "Why don't you go make another hymn? Maybe this time God will listen to you." Now I'm not afraid to die, 'cause I know it's coming. I told you I've seen the Reaper with his sign. He pops up sometimes whistling in the night. I look over my shoulder at every car light when I'm walking at midnight or trying to pick up some Arizona iced tea and a pack of Skittles. I can hear him planning to enter my home when I am sleeping, so I fight to stay awake. I avoid any kind of trouble outside because if I get involved, that could be my life. Nah, man, not me. Let me keep tiptoeing, all right? I got too much to do, too much to see. I fight to know exactly when I'm about to go. I don't want no surprises. If the Reaper gonna come get me, look me in the eyes. Just let me go fast, I know it's coming. I smell it in the air, no use in hands up, don't shoot. They'll just say he was reaching for the sky. No one will question it. All the people will say he should have just complied. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. If a cop tells you not to move, you shouldn't be reaching. I bet you he has a criminal record. While the rest of us are screaming, he shouldn't have had to die. He shouldn't have had to die. Shouldn't have had to die. Have had to die. Had to die. Nigger had it coming. Stop playing with me. I know it's almost time. I can hear the ticking of the universal time clock in my mind. I'm just waiting for it to finally be silent. Born to die. My life is a joke. If it isn't me in prison or me hanging from a tree, there is no freedom for me. My mom was 5, and my dad was 7. When Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, April 4th, 1968. Born into the world, my parents are, with the color of their skin, was a disgrace, was a disease, a problem, a pandemic that needed to be eradicated. Imagine being born into a world where they call you a monster and they want you erased just for what you look like. What's the point in being alive? When people say time heals wounds, but the more time passes, the more we repeat, and all I see is doom. There goes that ticking again. 2020 and we are still getting beaten and treated like slaves. 7 shots in the back in front of your kids. Write a bad check, gasping for a breath to live. I don't want this anymore. Just take me if you're gonna take me. I'm tired of waiting. Tired of dreaming for a better tomorrow. Tired of hoping that this world can become a better place. I did the best I can. I'm not supposed to be here. Not supposed to be here. Supposed to be here. To be here. Be here. Here.
Please give a virtual round of applause to all the artists and writers, directors, videographers. Please show some love for the work, for all the theater partners, the audience, yourselves for attending and being here. Thank you so much. As the artistic director of this project, I wasn't planning on being like emotional when I came back on. I just, Marika, would you mind taking this over?
No, hi. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Gabrielle, thank you. Let's go over to you with your beautiful piece, The Ballad of Jacob Blake. I was wondering about that as we were watching it this time. Is that something that you developed specifically for the Breath Project, or is that a piece that you'd had in mind and something that you might have been working on for a while?
No, this is a piece that I developed specifically for the Breath Project. So it was kind of in response. I was sitting one evening and was kind of noodling about just what had been happening so far. And it's been a really long few months, right? And it's been fraught with all sorts of injustice and really, really just terrible stuff happening. But it's also brought a couple of moments of intense, not only excitement, but also there's this new energy. And kind of what happened to me when I was, like I was talking about in the piece, I was sort of scrolling through Instagram one night, and then all of a sudden, like Jacob Blake, who is a victim of this violent police brutality, kind of came across my screen, and I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible, because in my lifetime, I haven't really seen anybody who went through what he's gone through and lived to tell about it, and also lived to like see his own justice be done. And in cases like, you know, we watched the Breonna Taylor case unfold, and just the lack of justice that was done in that space was so horrific and so violent for me as a Black woman to experience. And I can barely talk about it without getting emotional, you know, because it's so horrific, just like to think that a country that you've, you know, in some cases, like I do a lot of work to build racial justice inside of the theater sphere. And so like, you know, I'm dedicating a lot of my life and a lot of my work to bettering this country, and like for it to turn around and so flagrantly exhibit that it doesn't care very much about me was so violent and heart-wrenching. But then to like move down my timeline and see someone who went through this horrific thing but now lived, it was like like my immediate grab was like, oh my gosh, he can testify in court and he can talk about what happened, and like all of that rush to turn this man into a movement was like jarring for me as a person, because I am someone who honors the humanity of others and loves in a really unconditional sort of way. Once you have my love, you have it, you know? And so to have thought of this man, not as a man, but as a commodity, and someone who would come forward and be able to exact this justice that we all deserve and that he deserves, was a very jarring feeling, you know. It was, And so I have a plant named Pantheon, which is where that whole bit came from. And so I watered when I get really like in a heightened place of emotion to kind of ground myself. I water my plants. And so I was watering Pantheon and thinking about all of these things that were happening. And, you know, the poem kind of floated in, and I just sat there for 45 minutes and free wrote. And one of the other folks who was participating in the festival, Bruce had like sent me that this project was open and that it was accepting entries. And I had been kind of thinking about what I might say or what I might do. And it was so amazing to like have something and then have something that felt relevant. And so I put it out and here we are.
Well, that's amazing. I want to tell you that we also just had a comment in the chat from someone who asked to say thank you for doing this piece, specifically because so many of the names, the sentence is horrific, start to run together. And so to thank you specifically for saying his name. If you'd wanted the audience to wonder whether he was alive or not at the end, whether that was just your experience of like an imagined experience of reaching him. I had come away thinking one thing very definitively, but that was a question from an audience member of, did you want that to be ambiguous, or where did you want to leave your audience at the end?
Sure. I think I wanted the audience to sort of experience thinking that he had been killed. That's sort of, well, that is the trauma of being Black, you know, but I didn't want to end it with him being killed. So I wanted the audience to experience the feeling that I experienced of like, it is imagined, but just that panicky feeling of like, oh my God, because we're getting these hashtags all the time. It's happening all the time. And yeah, I think I just wanted the audience to experience that with me of like, oh my God, is he going to answer the phone?
Yeah, that was very effective because and refreshing that he didn't die in the end for me, but I was definitely on edge, like, oh my God, here we're losing another one, right? Even though it was a character that you created, you know, definitely the story was done so well, and it was just, you know, the relationship that you guys were building in that evening. You know, you, as an audience member, you walk away, you feel like, I want this to be a successful relationship, right? Like I want these guys to get together and for all to work out. And so, really refreshing at the end to have the brother live through it and not be the victim of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I wanted the whole thing to feel like a little slice of heaven in the midst of almost the apocalypse or whatever is happening right now. So yeah, I wanted the audience to be sort of rooting for it. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I toyed with the idea of killing him too, but I was like, nah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We appreciate that.
We loved also that sort of, you know, the difference when Jamal and I were watching these, I remember him saying, I was so excited to see a piece that took this tone, and that you came at this question and this prompt from kind of a different place. And then you still took us somewhere really important even within that. And so it was really awesome to see. Thank you, Candice.
Thank you.
We actually have another question from our audience, Jamal. It's for Derek Snow. Derek, I think I saw you join.
He is here. I saw him.
So, hey, Derek.
He is.
So we have a question from our audience. They're wondering, first of all, I want to tell you congratulations on your piece, which is beautiful.
Yeah, awesome.
Just
Thank you.
incredibly beautiful.
Thanks very much.
So the question we have from the audience member is to please talk about the audio at the beginning of the piece and what that was meant to represent. and how you developed that.
Sure. When I first wrote the piece, thank you guys for having me, by the way, and thanks for the question. I wanted live, if it was going to be staged, I wanted live music. I thought that was more effective. I've always liked to kind of combine forces with different arts. So I may, in some pieces, have theater mixed with a painter on stage or things like that. But I thought music would be interesting to this. It needed a soundtrack. I thought that Naima, who represents a character who has traveled across 4 centuries watching this happen, that she needed some sort of music. So I got in touch with my friend Nathan, who was a good friend of mine. We've been in the same theater company for about 18 years. His son is a freshman in high school and plays flute. And Nathan is an amazing guitar player, blues guitarist. And he sent a Facebook video last year of his son playing flute. He wrote a Halloween composition that was just this eerie, sort of just kind of ethereal piece. And when he started to write the music for this piece, I said, could you throw Wolf in there? Let me just hear what a little flute sounds like. And he was practicing warming up, and he was warming up by blowing through the flute, blowing like spit, clearing the spit valve. And it had this choking kind of labored breath sound. So I said, play that back for me, like do that a couple more times. And it just sounded like the loss of breath, or breath being kind of restrained and constrained. So I thought it just worked for the piece overall. So I just decided to add that in the beginning to sort of kind of add that extra element and that extra spirituality into it, of this happening over a period of centuries and what it might sound like. Yeah.
And your piece is very, there seems to be an obvious line drawn between your piece and sort of Greek tragedy, or tragedy of sort of a Shakespearean sort, and you're dealing with something that's a grief that's very large and epic. And I'm assuming that that was on purpose, that you tackled this epic grief from a place of epic theater.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, it was very personal as well. I'm classically trained, so I tend to write in that vein. But July 19th, 2015, one of my best friends, Sam DuBose, was killed by Cincinnati police officers here for having a missing front license plate. And he ended up having 2 trials for the officer, both mistrials, and then the city paid the officer $350,000 in back pay to go away, sort of, and vow never to be a police officer again. But still, you know, he basically got away with taking my friend away. So I've spent 5 years trying to channel the rage and the energy that I've had for that situation into something more creative, and that's where this came from. I thought the Breath Project was right on time, to be honest. So yeah.
Well, thank you for your submission and submitting to us and sharing it with us and allowing us
Absolutely.
to the rest of the larger community. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's have all of the, I think there's multiple folks here from the characters. If you're from the characters, if you'd like to turn on your mic and make sure your camera's on.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh, you've got your shirt on, so we can know, we identify you.
We all have our shirts on.
How y'all doing?
It's live theater. You've got a costume.
Yeah.
Hey, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. You know?
Hey, so I would like to hear about your group and how this specific project evolved, and how you devised this piece, but then also, you know, how this mission aligns with your specific ensemble.
You want to take that now?
I was like, y'all waiting for me to say something. So the characters, we are a company of independent artists, creatives who seek to write, produce, and just develop a lot of our own content. You know, as artists, we can audition all day, and you know, you get some, and most of them you don't. So when you can get a group of talented people who can come together and just put things together on your own, that's just taking the dream into your own hands and the journey into your own hands. And it's like, why not? You know what I mean? If other people put out their dreams, then we can put out our dreams too, and our stories as well, and represent for the stories that we have to share also. So that's pretty much what the characters is about. And I'm like representing the New York side right now, and Malachi and Aria are representing the Detroit side right now.
Yeah, we got a few of the characters over here, the Detroit characters, So we're all like one big happy family, we expanded to Detroit, and so we're just one happy family, and we get things done, And as far as the piece goes, we saw it, and we all wanted to write pieces that related to police brutality in some type of way, like some type of way, people are dying by the hands of police, or just the violence of, or the opposite of, So that's how kind of we connected that piece to what George Floyd, went through, and just the whole, hatred being the main thing, and hatred being the main killer. So we kind of, centered it around that.
Yeah, and then also like there are a bunch of us within our company. So, a lot of us, of course, wanted to be on board and be a part of the project. And so myself, Malachi, Aria, we wrote most of the monologues for it. Cameron also wrote her own monologue. And we thought about the voices that are affected by this and how we can speak for those voices. And I'm a mom in real life, so that prayer came from a real place. You know what I mean? As a Black man and everything like that, we just wanted to speak on the different voices and how people have been affected in different ways, and how it kind of is a cycle. A lot of these stories are repetitive. A lot of our voices and responses to it are repeating, and we're all hurting in the same way. So yeah.
So Ginger in our audience is asking if you have any California presence in the characters.
No, but Ginger, you can come on in. We always like to expand. I think, wait, did somebody's in Cali?
Yeah, we got Kyle. Yeah, we got Kyle. Actually, Kyle just came aboard, like literally within the last couple weeks, and he's in LA. So that's our one connect, but if connections are connections,
Exactly. We're always looking to expand the family. We just love to be around good people, good energy, talented people. We want to see all of us win and put each other on, and make our own opportunities and really touch the world, So Ginger, just look us up, find us on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram,
Yeah.
At the characters,
Yeah.
Aria, and Ginger says she wants to, and she's looking you up.
Oh, we'll be looking forward to it.
And Aria, you mentioned that this was the first time you had written a monologue. How was that for you in terms of crossing that line as an artist and challenging yourself in that way?
It was absolutely amazing, to be honest. It was an unexpected, beautiful surprise. I've always written poetry and things, but I always wrote for me. I never allow anyone else to touch anything I wrote. And so to go out and purposefully write a monologue, and not just one, but multiple, and give them away, it kind of felt like giving your kids to somebody to take care of. And they did a wonderful job with it, and I cried when I saw it the first time. I was excited, and it was just amazing. It was another thing that God showed me that I'm capable of, and I just bless Him for it.
Yeah. I mean, you write.
I wrote 4.
She wrote 4 of them things, you know what I'm saying?
And man, listen, Aria, child, she has immense talent. So, that's also what it's about too, that it's just like, just try it, just do it, you know what I mean? And put it out there, and we'll always encourage you to do so. And I'm so happy that she did. Her pieces were not plain. So we thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Lemon,
great
are you
work.
on still?
Thank you.
What was that?
So much.
Is Bruce still here? Oh no, Bruce had to jump up. I was going to ask him the question about monologues. Well, so that's awesome, you guys, and it's awesome that you're pushing each other in that way. Thank you.
Enrique, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It can go out to anyone, actually. This goes out to just everyone, but characters, since you guys are on now. The 846, how challenging was that for anyone to kind of work within that frame? Was it, just talk about that experience a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of tough, because me and Neff, actually, we initially planned out the scheme of the time scheme and how it was going to work, and giving each person this amount of time and saying, okay, we got to write this amount of monologues in this amount of time, to make sure that we hit the mark. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's give a little leeway just in case extra beats. You know what I'm saying? So that was difficult in its own. So we had the blueprint to say, okay, we're gonna give each person this amount of time, and when you write it, time it out. Boom. So once we get the time out, boom. Then now Sheik is actually our director, yeah,
and founder.
And founder, exactly. So so he directed each person. So it was up to him as well to make sure that the actor was on pace to make sure it was done in a good amount of time, so that we could stay to our time stamp that we laid out. So it was definitely. It was something that had to be intentionally done. We couldn't just say, okay, let's just do some stuff and we'll chop it down. Like, no, we're gonna plug in these pieces to make sure we add up, the correct formula.
Yeah, and I kind of enjoyed it. Go ahead.
I did have to cut, man.
Oh, we had to cut a lot of her.
Listen.
She wrote 10 monologues in 4.
She sure did. And every time she was like, well, why are we cutting this part? It was like, it's not that it was bad, Ari, I promise you. It's just because of the time. That's all it was. It's all it was.
Not easy.
It was good. We like,
it's too long. You talk too much, girl. You talk too much.
I personally enjoyed the challenge of getting it down. I think everybody had like about 40 seconds. We timed it to that and gave space for, again, people taking moments and stuff. Because as a writer, then you have to really, it has to hit. You have to, say the things that count and figure out what counts over this. And then when Malachi and I were going over everything to edit, the way that we work and vibe, we got to feel it in our spirit. So if it hits my spirit, but don't hit his spirit, we're like, okay, well, let's find the word, let's change it up. We got to feel it in the spirit, and so that we get it. And we're like, okay, that's it, that's enough, and let's go. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's very important, being led by the spirit, because it's like the craft is always bigger than you. You know what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that whatever idea, whatever thing that you're doing, it has to take a life of its own, and you have to give it room to take a life of its own. Because sometimes we can kind of control too many aspects, and you got to just let it go, let it do what it do.
Well, thank y'all so much. Amazing work, the ensemble work. I live in that world, so I know what it takes. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone from the Transcending Isolation here? Is there anyone from that? One of the young people?
I don't think we have any of the young people on with us.
Are there any questions that came in regarding that?
Just a lot of applause.
A lot of applause. Okay. Where we? I think Mr. James Brunt.
James, yeah, James. Yeah. Your piece is I had a question about your piece in terms of, hey James, congratulations first on your beautiful work that you put together. It was really amazing and moving and difficult to watch.
And the way you transform yourself, by the way, because I watched all these videos definitely more than once, and it was tonight that I realized, I was like, wait a minute, he's in that other video too.
Oh yeah.
The way you transform yourself is pretty amazing, brother. Like, I was like, okay, now I see it. I see it.
I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, doing so many things at once. I'm just like,
great work.
I'm really busy all the time, so I just kind of get wrapped up, and I'm like, oh, I did something. Like, what did I do? So it's wild.
James, what would this be like to take to take this piece, or would you want to develop it and put it in a theater on a stage? You know, it became so much a part of the world, and the world became, you know, truly your venue.
Right.
What would you have an interest in developing this, and what would that be like?
I honestly personally would. My brain most of the time in my life is real theater oriented, like already. And so I was honestly panicking. Like when the breath came up, I was like, we're in a pandemic. Like I was like freaking out in my head. I was like, we're in a pandemic. And like, how am I supposed to make this? Like, where are the resources that I have around me to like make this piece? And it was like super hard. Honestly, it was really hard for me because like when pandemic hit, I know for a lot of people, I was like mad depressed. Like I was like super depressed because it was like I had all these jobs honestly lined up all the way into next year, and I lost it all. So I almost was like in this real funk of like, what am I doing? Like, how can I create anymore? Like, I have to survive. Like, I have to figure it out. And especially with everything going on in the world, it just made it that much harder because it was just like a lot of trauma and a lot of really having to deal with the world around me. And like theater and acting is like my escape. And then like I felt like every day that was passing by, the more my worlds were mixing a way I didn't want them to. Like I was like trying to like take a breath and I literally couldn't. So like this piece for me, I'd love to adapt it to stage because that was what I had in mind immediately. Was like, oh, how do you do this like stage wise, blah, blah, blah. And then we just use the world around us. Like I'm thankful for my filmographer, like Daniel Sharkey. He's a real good homie and like a real good person. He's like a genius when it comes to just like the way his brain works and like our brains mushing together. I was like, oh snap, like this is gonna happen, like this thing is gonna happen. And I remember writing the piece in my room, and I shared it to my dad. Like I like the first person I showed was my dad, and I was like, hey dad, listen to this, like what do you think, what do you think about it? And he was just like sitting there, like he was just sitting in the chair. And if he's just sitting there, I know it like hit him, like I know it like really shook him. And so it's always a good test. And it shook me, and I told him straight up that I was like, I read it twice. I wrote it in a span of I want to say about like an hour. I wrote it in an hour just because it was so fresh. The pain was so fresh to me. And I read it out loud twice before I read it to my father. And I had a headache. And that was the first time in my life that I've ever like something truly hurt me. Like I've written a lot of stuff. Like I've written a lot of painful stuff in my life, but I was like, this hurt me. Like I've never been so shook up to the core. Like even watching it again, like I started crying watching everybody's stuff. Honestly, congratulations. Like you guys have blown me away. And I started crying. Like I'm real emotional. Like I'm a real emotional dude. Even though I'm this big dude, I'm real emotional. Because I just kept sitting there watching everybody's piece, and I kept thinking that like, oh my God, like all these people are going through the same thing that I'm going through, and we're all in different parts of the world. And then I was like blessed in my head that I was like, I have an opportunity to like meet all these people. Like I get to experience all of your work, and it just makes me want to be better and grow, and just like I want to see all the places. Like I was like, oh, where are these people at? Like I gotta meet them. Like when this pandemic's over, like I'll travel the world to see y'all, because y'all have inspired me so hard, man. Like y'all have like made me just so happy. I just can't explain it. Sorry that I'm like just going
Oh,
on.
that's good to hear. Appreciate that. Same.
So thank you. Just thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Thank you, man. And yeah, I mean, in terms of that question, like seeing it live, I actually like, I definitely know it can be done live, but it was something about it, the way it was filmed, it hit me as like one of those site-specific pieces where, or like where you're taking people on a journey, and like we end up in the pond with you, and then we're back in that, that garage or whatever that was, that building you were in. So yeah, it can work a multitude of ways, I'm sure. But again, thank you, my brother, for your heart. Sure. And your work, and for everyone who came out tonight. Did we miss anyone? Miss any of the actors? All right. So yeah, I don't have a closing speech, but I want to say a resounding thank you and send out all the love I got in my heart to all of you.
Send it back.
And
too.
this has been an amazing process,
Sure.
you know, a crazy process, and like
Yeah.
time crunch was crazy, and we got it done, and here we are Sunday night. And you know, to the audience, if you're watching and you were able to sit through this and take this in, I can just hope that, you know, I'm not going to even begin to speak for all Black people. What I will say is this, is that, you know, if you're wondering how to proceed and you're not Black and brown and you're watching this, just know that you don't have to treat us special, just treat us like human beings. We're not asking for anything additional. We just want to be treated properly. And so this work will continue to live in the archive, but it will also, we will work with those artistic directors of our partner theaters to make sure that this work gets presented live when time will allow. And we're also planning next steps. So please keep your emails open and your phones open and all that stuff, and we'll be reaching out to y'all for sure. And we're going to continue to work together somehow, some way. All right, God bless, and thank you, everybody. Have a blessed, beautiful rest of your Sunday, and be safe. And vote. If you didn't vote. Let's do that. All right.
Absolutely.
Peace, everybody. Peace.
Peace.